Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here with us at Apache Elementary. My name is Danielle Airy, and I'm the Director of Public Relations for the Peoria Unified School District. It is so great to see so many of you here with us this evening, and our parents who have joined us. This is our third parent organization dinner that we host throughout the year, and you may look around the room as parents and principals and notice that we have a few extra guests who have joined us this evening. We were really thrilled to partner tonight with the Community Legislative Network, and that's a committee of the governing board that gathers together and provides input and feedback to our governing board on legislative issues. And so we've combined our Community Legislative Network together with our parents this evening. We've also, if you look around the room, you'll notice some students. We've invited some of our student body presidents from our various high schools to come together tonight for a very special event where we will be hosting some of our legislators. We'll get to hear their feedback and their insight on education in Arizona, have an opportunity for you to also ask some questions of our legislators. So we are just very excited to be here tonight and have a very packed agenda that we will be getting through. So thank you to all of you for giving up your evening to be here with us. A very special thank you. I have a whole list of thank yous tonight, but to kick things off, of course, a very special thank you to Apache Elementary Principal Heidi Kane and their assistant principal Joel Wakefield put quite a bit of work into making this evening possible, and we certainly appreciate them hosting. Also, Jamie Finn, who is their PTSO president, put quite a bit of work into this as well. Well, on behalf of Apache Elementary, in order to welcome you to their school, we have a very special welcome address by Jenny T. She is an 8th grader here at Apache Elementary. Jenny?
Good evening and welcome to Apache. My name is Jenny T. I am an 8th grader and secretary for Apache's National Junior Honor Society. I have been to this school since 1st grade, and I believe it's an amazing school. Our motto is "Awesome Happens Here." We have amazing teachers who are always caring and kind. They always check on a student's progress, especially in academics. And every time you walk into a classroom, the atmosphere is usually filled with fun and excitement. In my classes, I participate in hands-on experience, and we make new friends in different grade levels. Sometimes we meet guest speakers who understand a lot about U.S. history. We also do a lot of fundraisers and projects. And of course, Apache is an awesome school, and it opens new pathways for students like me. And I would like to thank you for coming out tonight, and I hope you have a good evening.
Very good job. Thank you so much to you, Jenny. It's so great to have kids like that and to have them here. For those of you who came early, you may have seen we had 6th graders from the band who were here serenading us this evening before we started, so we certainly thank them for being here as well. Well, as I mentioned, we have some very special guests in the room with us, and I know we have a couple who have joined us, a couple who are coming just a little bit late, but we do want to make sure that we introduce some of the elected officials that we have in the room with us this evening. First of all, I know I saw Representative David Livingston of District 22 here with us. And I know we have some others who are making their way up. Senator Kimberly Yee will be joining us, and I know as she's making her way in, as well as some of the others, we'll be sure to introduce them as they arrive. A couple of them, of course, running late coming from busy days down at the Capitol, I'm sure, so we'll make sure to introduce them as they arrive. Also, our governing board, we have our president, Mr. Hal Borhauer, here with us. Our governing board clerk, Mr. Joe McCord. Governing board member, Mr. Matt Bullock. Governing board member, Mrs. Tracy Livingston. And governing board member, Mrs. Kathy Connect, I know will be here shortly, so I know she's looking forward to joining us as well. Our superintendent, who you'll hear from momentarily, Dr. Denton Santarelli. Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Heather Cruz. Our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Michael Finn. And we certainly have a number of our K-12 administrators, directors, and of course a very special thank you to our principals and assistant principals who have joined us this evening. They have so many evening commitments, and they do take the opportunity to be here with each of their school, or with their school. So we welcome them, and we really appreciate them giving their time to be here. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our governing board president, Mr. Hal Borhauer, who I know brings some greetings on behalf of the governing board. So, Mr. Borhauer, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Airy. I would like all of the PTO, PTSO, PTA parents to stand up. We are here because of you and to thank you for all you do for the students in our district. We could not be as successful as we are without the support that you give our schools every day in the school year and even beyond the school year. So on behalf of the governing board, I want to extend a thank you to the PTSO parents and PTA parents for what you do for our students. It's just amazing, the gifts that we see coming through each month that come from your organization. So that's all I want to say is I want to thank you for being part of our education process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borhauer. We appreciate that. Well, you may have noticed some students greeting you as you came in today. Those are wonderful helpers that we've had here with us from Apache Elementary School. We also had students, if you'll notice, contributing to the placemat that you have there, which is yours as a gift on behalf of Apache. In addition, they contributed to the centerpiece that's in the center of your table, and if you'll notice, they're not quite finished just yet. They're a work in progress, and they are supposed to represent the theme of food. And so if you would please make sure to leave those on your table. They are going to collect those back, and those students are very much looking forward to finishing those art projects. So if you'll leave those in the center of your table, you're welcome to take the placemats. But we appreciate the students giving their time to put those together for us tonight. Without any further ado, I'm also pleased to introduce you to, by far, the greatest advocate of education and students in the Peoria Unified School District. That is our superintendent. We're very pleased to have him here with us this evening. It's Dr. Denton Santarelli.
Thank you, Danielle, and I also would like to welcome all of you to Apache School in the Peoria Unified School District, particularly our elected officials. We know that your schedules are extremely busy, ramping up this week and through the legislative session. The young student that spoke before us earlier talked about Apache, where amazing happens, and we're all here because we want amazing to happen in each and every one of our schools across our district, across our state. We want Arizona to be an amazing state. We all know, and I'm preaching to the choir, that in order for a system to be amazing, it has to be grounded in a strong educational system, pre-K through university. And through the events that have occurred over the last several years with the tremendous strains that have been placed upon all of us as a result of the economy, it's been a time where we are often easily chided into pointing fingers this way at one another or about placing blame. And in order for us to be a strong country, to be a strong district, and certainly to be a strong state, now more than ever, we have to work together. The answers to the problems that we face are complex. The challenges mount each and every day. And it's only through our collective work and our collective vision are we going to continue to make our country the great country that it has been well into the future. We'll get to ask our elected officials some questions. We know their challenges are tall, as are all of yours. So once again, thanks for being here. I know that I can't stand in the way of food, so I'll conclude with a big thank you and appreciation. Ms. Sari?
Well, I hope you will certainly all continue to enjoy your dinner. We are going to go ahead and begin with the next portion of our program. Certainly, we do want to make sure we are respectful of our elected officials, of their time, and certainly respectful of your time as well. So if you can please direct your attention up here, I do want to make sure that we introduced our elected officials. We'll begin with Senator Kimberly Yee. She is representing District 20, so we're thrilled to have her with us this evening, and I have to apologize to her profusely because I've made an error on her name tag there in front, so I feel terribly for that, but Senator Yee, we certainly thank you for being here with us this evening. We also have Representative Paul Boyer representing District 20, so we're very thrilled to have him here with us as well. Representative Rick Ray from District 21, who is here with us as well. We also have David Livingston, Representative Livingston of District 22 here with us. And last but most certainly not least, Representative Martin Quezada of District 29. So we certainly appreciate all of you taking your time to be here with us this evening. Well, you all know in the audience, our parents, our community legislative network, and our students who have joined us this evening, what a wonderful district the Peoria Unified School District is. So I certainly know I don't have to tell you, and certainly to all of our representatives, you've likely heard about our 93% high school graduation rate. We are an A-rated district, and we think that we have among the best and brightest in the way of students, teachers, administrators serving our community. So we're very proud here in the Northwest Valley. We have some information there for you. We hope that you will certainly take that back with you. It's an annual review, and you can access that on our website, and to our audience as well. You can certainly access our annual review full of information about the Peoria Unified School District. Now we have much to get to, much to cover in a very short amount of time this evening, but to begin, I would like to ask each of our elected officials, and you have a microphone there in front of you, so if you'll talk into that to speak up for our audience, we'll appreciate it. But I'd like to give you just 1 to 2 minutes so we can get through each of you in a timely manner to share with us really what is your vision for education in Arizona. And we'll go to you first, Senator Yee.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having us here this evening with you. What a great turnout. I want to also thank your superintendent. It was a pleasure to see him at the Capitol. So you have a very busy superintendent in your school district, and we just appreciate the dialogue that we have with our local school districts. First, the privilege of being able to be the chairman of the Senate Education Committee allows me to see and visit with so many individuals from the education community. And that is the most important asset, is to hear what is happening here in the field, because we can't make policy decisions without your input, without knowing what the problems are that need to be fixed. And so my vision this year, there are so many things that are on your plate with many new requirements that are coming down, is to just allow us to help you to have that smooth transition with respect to the many requirements that we'll be looking at in the next couple of years, dealing not only with curriculum, but assessments and many other things. And I just want to invite all of you to call my office, make an appointment, and I'd be happy to talk with you.
Thank you very much, Senator Yee. We'll go to you, Representative Boyer.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Representative Paul Boyer. I'm also Kimberly's seatmate. I'm over in the House. And I also worked for Mesa Public Schools for the last year. I finished there on last Friday. There's a constitutional prohibition against being a state employee and elected official at the same time, so I stepped down. I really enjoyed my time there. As far as I see, my vision for education, this morning in the House we had a joint committee with higher education, education, and commerce, and we were talking about Common Core. And we brought in members from the business community, and they wanted to talk about the economic growth aspect that we all believe that education plays and the role that it will play. And so my vision for this session is really to make sure that Common Core does get implemented properly. I'll be carrying a bill that phases out the Ames test and to the PARCC assessment. And so that's a huge priority for the State Board of Education, and which I hope goes over to the Senate quickly and is heard over there. And so yeah, it's just the really educating, I think, not just the districts on what they need to do, but also parents, because I don't think they realize, and I mean, I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but I don't think they realize how different K through 12 will be looking with the new state standards. So, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Boyer. Representative Gray.
Good evening. I was elected to the majority whip position this year. This is my second term. And I have basically told my members that I'm not going to be focused on bills. I'm going to help members with their bills. I come from a business background, so I am much more familiar with business than I am education. But one of the things that I know very well is two of the top key things in our state, kind of goes along with the committee that Representative Boyer was on, is commerce and education. One of the things that I am going to be working on, I've been talking with the Chamber, Arizona Chamber of Commerce, the Arizona Commerce Authority, and Greater Phoenix leadership about helping pull the House and Senate Republicans together to look at a strategic plan, what I'm now calling the 2020 vision, which is what will Arizona look like in 2020. I want us to be able to strategize so that when we can say, okay, if this is our goal, if we want to be, and maybe we'll throttle it back to top 10 in the nation for quality output of K-12, then to be able to say, on the education side, what do we need to get from here to there? And I think, again, my field of expertise isn't education. The more I learn about it, and from some of my business background, I know that we need to take some of the restrictions off. I think when we start saying you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and administratively it takes money to do that, we're not giving you the freedom to really choose what you do. So my view is that we need to be able to say, here's the money, do with it as you will, you adjust it for what you want. But I think as a caucus, if we can come together and say, okay, what do we need to do to really make our educational system the best, that will hopefully foster some innovative ideas and really create some more reform and change, which is holistic and not just tweaking around the edges.
Thank you, Representative Graham. Before we get to Representative Livingston, I do want to just remind our audience that you have the note cards on your table. If you can think of a question that you might have for any of our elected officials, if you would please take the time to jot that down, simply hold that up in the air. We will make sure to come around and take that from you. We want to make sure that we get to as many of the questions as possible, so I'll try my best to move us along. Without further ado, Representative Livingston.
Thank you. I'd like to thank just the school district in general for hosting this, first of all. I think it's very, very important that we get out and listen to you and talk with you, and I think you guys need access to us. And not enough businesses and cities and schools are doing that. So you know, the leadership in your district is ahead of the curve, which is really good and very, very important. And I'm honored to be here for that. And I think the question is the right question. It's the vision of education. In a big picture, I think the vision is how do we go from the top or the bottom third in the country to the top third in the country in education. I think that's a realistic goal and something we all need to work towards. I'm a big believer in the new Common Core. I think that steps to that. It's part of the process. It's not the whole process. It's part of the process. I think schools and school districts also need to realize in this state, we are going to have more charter schools. We've got more options for schools. So schools are going to have to compete with each other. And I think it's really important that school districts have specialty schools. If it's arts or computers or gifted, whatever it is, it is. And I think that's going to be a great way to attract kids to districts and attract good teachers to good districts. And I think, again, Peoria is kind of leading that way. But I think in the next 10 years, there's going to be more change to that than the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, we've had a whole bunch. And I definitely believe in my heart of hearts that better schools means better workers, and better workers get better jobs. And that's where the economy and the jobs and helping our kids get to the next level is all tied together. And I'm happy to try to help that happen.
Thank you, Representative Livingston. Representative Quezada.
Thank you. My name is Martin Quesada, and I represent probably the smallest district that overlaps with Peoria. But I thought it was really important for me to be here for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm obviously the only Democrat up here.
It's okay.
Two, because I'm very proud to be a graduate of this district and a product of this district and a product of public schools. So I want to thank you. I absolutely want to extend a thank you to the district, to the teachers, to the classified staff who have done such a good job helping to raise me and are continuing to do such a great job here in Peoria. Dr. Santarelli for helping putting this together, and your board members, I see a few of you here who are supporting that effort as well. I think this is a great event that you guys hold, and I hope that other districts will do the same. Again, a little bit about me. I unfortunately, I think, won't be serving on the Education Committee in the House. But it's probably one of, and I'm sure you'll all agree, if not the most popular committees. Everybody wants to serve on education because everybody is touched by education, everyone's affected by education, everyone has some sort of money in that pot, some sort of piece in the game in education. So we all have to fight each other to get onto that committee. Although I won't be serving on that committee, education is still a big issue in my district. I also serve on a school board in my district, on the Pendergast Elementary School Board. I'm the president of that board this year. So these issues are something I'm going to be dealing with consistently for the next year. And so with that, I think especially from the House Democrat side, we want to ensure that all students have the ability to go to a school where they're going to receive an education that's going to prepare them for tomorrow. It's going to prepare them to be citizens of tomorrow, and a lot of times that means that you have to invest in that area. And so a lot of our fight oftentimes comes down to the fact that we're fighting for more funding to ensure that we're giving you the resources in order to accomplish a lot of the things that we're telling you to do with our kids. So that's going to be the biggest thing from our end, is we're going to be fighting to ensure that the funding is there to do what needs to be done in our schools. But aside from that, we want to ensure that the employees are taken well care of. They're being taken care of in the districts as well. We don't just have teachers. We have bus drivers. We have cafeteria workers. We have assistants, all of whom work very hard and for very low pay, and who devote their lives really to our system. And a lot of times they get lost in the shuffle. So we want to ensure that those employees are taken care of as well. And with that, I'll let us move forward.
Thank you, Representative Quezada, and thank you to all of you. I really appreciated those comments. I have a number of questions here, and I know the audience is probably going to start to send some of them in. We have a lot to cover in a very short amount of time, so I want to make sure that we get through as much as possible. And I know Senator Yee may have to sneak away. I know she has another commitment to get to as well. So just in case you do have to sneak off, know that we very much appreciate you being here with us.
And it was nothing that anyone said. It's just I really do have to get to my next appointment. Sorry.
No worries at all. But I do want to touch on something that a number of you did touch on in your comments, and that is in relation to the Common Core standards. And we've had some conversations with this parent group on the Common Core standards. Of course, it's one of really just an array of mandates that the schools have absorbed, and the implementation is incredibly costly. I do want to ask how the state intends to support our transition to the Common Core standards, and wondering if you can weigh in on that. And Senator, I know you touched on it as well. I'm not sure if that's something you have time to weigh in on, but if you could take just a moment to address that, I'm sure we'd all appreciate it.
This is one of the most important questions that we will be discussing and debating at the Capitol this coming legislative session, because the Common Core is before us. All states are looking at various facets of issues, and it affects our schools so quickly that we want to provide a pathway to make Common Core implementation as smooth as possible, that teachers would be trained as well as possible, and that the funding would be in place so that we can achieve that effort. And so in my conversations in the surrounding communities in the Capitol Core, I guess, corridor, is I've had conversations with the state superintendent, the Department of Education, the State Board of Education, and with various members of the legislature to find out what their critical needs are first, so that we can outline our priorities, because there's so much on the table that sometimes it's overwhelming. And we need to just look at what should happen first, and then go down that list carefully and identify what our critical needs are so that we can manage this huge task well. And I think the conversation, again, got started this morning in the House with the House Education Committee, Higher Education Committee, and the Commerce Committee coming together to begin that conversation. It was a great opportunity to have questions and answers, and people from the business community and people from the education community be able to put all of those questions out there. And I think it started the conversation, and I think it was a good start. I think there's much more to do, and what's nice is that this is clearly a priority, and yes, funding is necessary.
Thank you very much, Senator. And I know Representative Livingston, you touched on that as well as far as the Common Core, and it was something certainly that Governor Brewer signaled she would be increasing funding to kind of help meet needs for academic standards. So certainly I didn't know if you wanted to also weigh in on that one as well.
Yeah, I think the issue is funding and dollars. The governor releases her budget on Friday, and we'll see if she's dedicated exact dollars to that or not. I think what a realistic expectation would be is whatever the governor releases, you need to think of it as that's the maximum that's going to be. It would be very, very difficult to get anything over what she's asking for. But there's going to be additional dollars there. There's a chart on the table showing how big of a decrease there has been in state funding for the last 5 years, and that's pretty accurate. But there's other charts out there too, and I wanted to bring that up because it wasn't there. If you look at a 10-year history in funding in the state of Arizona, we've actually had a 5% growth compounded in education funding. And one of the most important thing I think with education funding is we have to stop the roller coaster. We can't have these huge increases and then these huge decreases, because that's where you are taking away stuff and you're laying off people, and it's very, very difficult. I think one of the things we're focusing on is looking at a solid 3-year budget in the state and smoothing out those roller coasters. And by smoothing it out, that also will mean the growth won't be as high, but there's going to be growth. And it's just a matter of priorities for the state and negotiating those. And those negotiations are always very difficult. But it's done with the best in mind. And it's done with balancing the budget. And the last few years, we've incurred a lot of debt in the state. So we had the budget in a much better scenario, but last year we spent $330 million on interest charges on the debt of the state. And that's $330 million that's not going into programs. So one of the things we need to work on at the state is paying down that debt so we can take the principal and interest payments that are going to the debt and bring it back in to schools and higher education and DPS and some other areas. I mean, I think we'll see a combination of all that. I don't think anyone could get everything they want in the budget. It could be pieces that we all get, some here and some there, and it's going to go that way.
Well, and you touched on funding. It's a matter of funding, as everything truly seems to be, but in particular the School Facilities Board, which, for those who are not familiar, really was designed to provide funding for school building maintenance and repair badly needed for many of our schools, has not been funded for 5 years. Wondering if you can weigh in for us on what will transpire with the future of the School Facilities Board when we can expect to see some of those dollars for our schools. Representative Boyer?
Yeah, sure. Well, like any budget, you need 31 in the House, 31 members to vote in the affirmative in the House, 16 in the Senate, and you need the governor to sign off. Our fiscal crisis, as you all are aware, began in fiscal year 10, calendar year 9 is when it really began. And it's been a struggle. I mean, we actually, as I'm sure you saw the Comedy Central, we sold our state buildings, or at least the lease back, so we didn't have to cut education as much as, we mitigated it as much as possible. Whether or not there will be additional SFB funding, as far as I know, we haven't begun. I'm sure the governor and leadership has begun negotiations, or at least discussions. I haven't been involved in those, so it's really hard to predict at this point where they are. I am on the Appropriations Committee, and I haven't heard anything yet, so it's hard to guess at this point.
Any others want to weigh in on the SFB in particular? Representative Quezada?
Sure. This is a critical issue. I mean, especially because there are a lot of districts who are not in positions that they're as well off as other districts. We have a lot of districts where their buildings are literally crumbling on top of their students and on top of their teachers. I've been to some of those districts. I've seen some of the schools, and even some of the schools in my district where our own boardroom, we had to have a discussion about delaying repairs to our own boardroom because they were literally crumbling around beside us. And we were given a presentation where he said, look, you see right there where that bricks is crumbling? That means that we've only got a few years left here. And there are districts where the facilities are in such disrepair that it's becoming a safety issue. And we're going to eventually get to a breaking point. And so this issue is critical. We do need to fund this because not all districts can find that money elsewhere.
Thank you. And Representative Gray, I noticed you were lunging forward. I'm not sure if you had anything to add to that.
Well, I think one of the challenges we face is there are needs all over. And we do have a limited amount of income. So when we're looking at where we put money, we do have challenges. As you've probably been reading, we've got CPS and children that are really in life and death situations. My view when it comes to, again, with facilities, fees, and because we are limited on what we have as resources, and because we have critical needs across the board, and some of them that aren't very exciting, like IT, when we've got DOR that has had actually on the verge of breaking down, and when the Department of Revenue has computer problems, it causes it to break down. That disrupts everything. We don't get anybody out on the lawn with bullhorns telling us to spend money on IT, but those are needs. And as Representative Boyer said, we did, and I wasn't there then, but we did basically sell out our buildings to have funds to be able to stop cutting and trying to get by. So one of the things I want to communicate is there's nobody down there that really, to quote Montini, is making war on children. We're doing the best with what we have. And we're seeing some dramatic improvement. In fact, Glenn Hammer from the Arizona Chamber has said that what was done with the jobs bills over the last 2 years, and this is his word, not mine, has been monumental. So we are seeing what I think is the best growth pattern. We've had 60,000 new jobs. We've got businesses coming in. We've been ranked the top state for entrepreneurials to start a business in. That is a way where, if we can go down that path, we will see revenues begin to grow, and we will be able to fund the way we need to fund. My thought is we need to look at situations innovatively. And I've talked with Dr. Santarelli and Mr. Finn to say, if there are things in Title 15 that are causing you to divert money to do administrative things instead of putting that money in the classroom, let us know. Because on the business side, we've got regulations that hinder business growth. We need to take care of those. On the school side, there may be things that are again, the previous legislatures have, in good intent, put burdens and shackles on you that is costing money. We need to be innovative. We need to think outside the box, and we need to say, with what we've got, how can we make this better? And my view, again, is to say, let's just take, this is the money, you don't have pots, here it is, manage it. So if your facilities are where you need to put that money, then you have the freedom. But again, we need to get out of that box thinking and start being innovative. And we really need experts in education. To me, I've talked with somebody from Expect More, Arizona, because I'm trying to get a better handle on all facets of education. And one of the things that she had told me was, well, you've done a great job, requiring students to have to read by the time they get out of third grade, and then grade letters for schools. And my comment to her was, I appreciate that, but why should the legislature even have to do that? Why should we as legislators have to say, well, you should do this or this? I would like to see the education community say, if you change this or let's restructure this innovatively to where we can do better with the money that we have. Businesses do that all the time.
All the time.
And I think if we can do that and build that line of communication and work together, we can say, okay, we may not be able to increase a whole lot more, but if we, and we are looking at increasing, but let's say, what can we do to maximize and maybe take off some of those handcuffs and some of those restrictions and really give you as the school boards the freedom to say, okay, here's the money we've got, this is the way we will manage our money most effectively in our district. And Peoria will probably have different priorities than other school districts, but we need to be able to rethink that and unattach those handcuffs so that you have that ability to do that.
Well, I'm getting a couple comments in from our audience, and I'm going to kind of combine a couple of these to see if I can kind of maximize them and get them into one question. But certainly was not a bright moment for Arizona at a 2013 Education Week Quality Count survey that stated we were 47 out of 50 states in per pupil spending for education. I'm getting a couple members of our audience saying it just doesn't seem like education funding is a priority. It seems like it is a low priority. And others saying that really education is going to contribute to the economic engine in Arizona. And so if we can do things to stimulate education, we're in turn going to increase and provide for the economic engine that will drive our state through the future. And I was wondering if I can just kind of get some reactions to what our parents are saying and seeing education as a low priority when they're hearing things like statistics where we receive 21.8% less in funding per pupil and ranking 47 out of 50 in the nation. I'm wondering if you can weigh in on that. We'll go Representative Boyer.
Sure. Well, I mean, we're all waiting to see what the governor's budget is going to consist of this Friday. And she did highlight that, if y'all saw her State of the State, where she did mention Common Core. And what I took that to mean is she is interested in funding professional development for teachers and also technology. So I think if I can predict, I have had a few predictions come true. If y'all saw Sunday Square Off, I did predict that she would go with the full expansion. So I do think there will be some money in there for education. I don't know if that would change the number. I'd have to see how the other states are faring. But we have, as a state, decided to opt into Common Core, and that's something that we have made a priority. So I think we do need to help out with professional development. We can't just tell our teachers, okay, here are the new rigorous evidence-based standards, and good luck. I don't think we can do that. I think we do need to support our teachers. So to answer your question, as far as the numbers, I don't know relative to other states, but I do think there will be additional funding. And I'm sure most of you know that about 42% of our overall general fund spending is K through 12. And I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but we can only, at the state legislature right now, we can only manage 31% of our state budget. Another third is voter protected, and another third is statutorily driven. And now, I don't know many businesses that can only manage 31% of their budget, but when, as Mr. Gray mentioned, when we have other priorities like CPS, public safety, DOR, when we have other priorities, sometimes it's really tough, and we've done everything that we can, that I know of, to fund education fully.
Thank you. Representative Livingston.
A couple things I want to hit on that. On the 31%, what you need to realize is if, easy math, and just multiply how many zeros you want on it. If it's $100, we in the House control $31. The governor controls $69 of the state budget. And it's that big a deal. I mean, so we take the heat, and that's okay. But we don't have the control, which, it's just how it goes sometimes. But I think it's important that you realize that. I'm a business guy. I'm a financial advisor. I'm a number guy. I like stats are my things and stuff. And what you have to realize with all these different charts and all these different stats is you can use them any way you want, depending on when you have the start and the end of the numbers. So from 2008 to 2012, we had a lot of cuts because we attacked the budget in Arizona to fix it. There's a lot of states right now that are doing those cuts. So they didn't do it when they needed to. They deferred it, and now they're doing it. There's a lot of states that are running huge deficits, Illinois, California. We were actually in a worse position than those two states in 2008, if you look at it per person in Arizona. Now we're in a substantially better position. So there's some hard times coming to a whole bunch of states in this country. We took a proactive. Again, you have to look at it, the numbers you can use almost any way you want, anyway, and you just need to realize that sometimes the numbers are very honest, and sometimes they're very deceiving. And it's not always that it's done to be deceitful at all. You just have different people analyzing. On my table, when we talked about earlier, we were talking about this issue. And I don't believe there's almost any study out there that has a really good number when you're starting to compare state to state to state on funding. If you just look inside the state of Arizona and you try to compare it district to district and get accurate numbers, it's still not easy, much less go into different states. And it's how they count the federal money and where that money comes in and who controls that versus the state money coming in this way. And then you have property taxes over here and you have assessments over here. Different states, different cities, different countries, counties count that differently. And it's very, very difficult to do those apples to apples. What I care about is how we're doing on the west side of town, what we're doing for the state of Arizona. And tell you the truth, I don't really care what's happening in New Mexico. You know, I want to make sure the state of Arizona is doing the best it can with every dollar it spends.
And I would just like to comment on that. And unfortunately, I don't remember. All I can remember is NCSL, and that's a state organization. But there's something that starts with an N, and it's got a C. But it's the national. Well, no, but there's something that they do state funding or school funding, education funding. So as I was trying to research this and get a handle, and I went to that, and this is, their organization is all on looking at national schools and different states and where they rank. What I got from them, these are my own numbers, but it goes along with what Representative Livingston said. They had us pegged, I believe, it was at 26. So we were actually in the middle. So I think too, it is one of those things where we can have things that we want to pull out. In fact, I'd heard President Biggs the other day talking about he was at a meeting with other state groups, and there were like 5 states at his table, and they were all the 49th in ranking. And so, again, we have to really, as far as I'm concerned, really research that to say, okay, what are they comparing? What exactly, and how does our state differ in how we fund? If you've read the paper, you saw that report on how Texas matches up with, or Arizona matches up with Massachusetts. And I mean, and I looked at that and it's like, boy, that isn't even apples and oranges. There are so many differences. We can't compare that. So if we're going to go for the truth, we really have to dig in and say, where is this fair and accurate? Where are the discrepancies, and how do we compensate that so that we can get to the right data? But the bottom line still comes down to, we need to do the best for our kids with what we have, and we need to be as innovative to reach that goal as possible.
Thank you, Representative Gray. One last funding question. I promise we will get to another topic, because certainly that is the can be the doom and gloom portion of the panel discussion. But yesterday, the Arizona Court of Appeals announced that the state must fully fund the voter-authorized K-12 education budget to account for inflation. And this was, as you know, put into place as a part of Prop 301. And I'm wondering if I can get a reaction on this ruling. We'll go to you, Representative Quezada.
Well, in my opinion, it was a very favorable ruling. I mean, I think the Court of Appeals yesterday, when was it, yesterday or earlier this week, they upheld the will of the voters. And the voters wanted this to happen. They asked for this to happen, and they voted on it. Now, granted, this was a complicated lawsuit. They're dealing with complicated issues, and I probably expect it'll be appealed to the Supreme Court. But where it stands now, I think that the decision was fair. And I kind of glanced through the decision. I haven't read it in detail yet, but I'm happy with the decision that came out. And I think that it's fair that the voters can ask the legislature to continue to do this and fund it at these levels. And to kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about funding overall in general, because I didn't jump in on that last question, but I think you prefaced that last question with a key word, and that key word was priorities. Regardless of where we rank in the nation, whether it's 49, 48, 47, 26, you know, at the end of the day, when you compare all those studies, I think we can all agree we're still probably pretty low. Well, no matter where that number actually is, it's still pretty low. And we need to reevaluate what our priorities are when we're looking at the budget from a bigger level, from that top-down level. Looking at everything, taking everything into consideration, what are our priorities? Do we want to fund education? Do we want to ensure that our kids are going to have the success that they need, the resources they need to be successful in education and in the future? Or do we want to fund other things? Private prisons, corporate tax cuts, things like that. I mean, those are things that, and not to say that those are all bad things. Some of them I will say they're bad, but not all of them are bad things. I mean, some corporate tax cuts are good things, but are those, is that the priorities we can afford to go with right now? And from our point of view, no, we don't think they are. We think that we need to prioritize our funding in education and make the best use of that 31% that we are able to deal with from the legislature. So I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is just priorities.
Thank you very much. Well, a hot topic and something that we will be discussing further actually following this panel and is really in the forefront of everyone's minds is school safety. As you know, the incident that took place in Connecticut really, while it was 2,000 miles away, we certainly felt the impact ripple through the nation, and we have received countless emails, calls, concerned parents wanting to know really what will our elected officials be doing in the way of allocating additional resources for school safety. And we have just a few moments before we go to our closing, so I do want to just get each of you to weigh in very briefly on that before we move on. And so we'll just begin and work our way down. If you can just kind of touch on that for me.
Sure. Well, I think that the school resource officers will be in the discussion, in the forefront of pretty much every conversation we'll be having moving forward. Representative Ethan Orr has a creative idea. I haven't seen the language, and before I sign on to any piece of legislation, I like to read it first. But he did tell me he has a creative idea to get grant money from the feds to provide for more school resource officers, and that is certainly an option that I'm very interested in supporting if it does exactly what we think it will do.
Thank you, Representative Gray.
Well, I do think, obviously, that will be in the discussion. Again, I think instead of saying this is allotted for this, I would rather just give schools money and say use it unrestricted. If you've got a need, you feel that this fits your school, then you can spend that money on that need rather than just, again, pigeonholing and saying you have to spend this money here. It was a tragedy. Some of the things that I've heard about how to react to this tragedy, I hear those and then I look at the situation and they don't really apply. It wouldn't have changed the situation. So I think it's important, if there's a problem, we really look at the problem and say what will solve this problem, not just do a knee-jerk reaction. But again, we will be talking about this. My preference is to just say if we're going to allocate money, let's just allocate money and say this is yours, use it as you see fit. If more officers are what you want, then you do that. But each school is unique and different, and I think we should allow school districts to make those decisions themselves.
Thank you, Representative Livingston.
Tough issue, emotional issue. No easy answers on this one. And I'm like Paul, I like to analyze and look at things and the different bills and which way I would go. And so we're not at that stage yet at this new session. So I'm just going to give you some of my personal opinions on some of these subjects. I believe, the history of this country is very important. I believe the Constitution is very important. I consider myself a constitutionalist. I believe the Second Amendment is absolutely critical for the safety of this country, that we need to have that. When you start changing documents because of the emotion of the time, I think that's very, very dangerous, can lead down a lot of bad ways. I would have no problems at all with armed officers at your schools. If it's in your parking lots or the entryways and those type of things, I think that's great. I wouldn't have a problem with that. The question is, how do we fund it and how do we do it? I think if we have police officers, active duty police officers, which an average benefit pay package of over $70,000 is too much for school districts to absorb, too much for the state to pay for. I think there's other ways around that. I think we could easily have retired police officers. We could have volunteers. We could have military retirees. We could have Luke Air Force spaces here for the west side of town. We could have people there. I think it's very, very important that each school district takes a look at this and figures out what is best for their school district and how to operate it. There's no easy way. And the discussion has to happen within the community, within the school boards, and then within the state. And each of those could take some time.
Thank you. Representative Quezada.
Well, getting back to priorities, what should be more of a priority than safety? Safety should absolutely be at the top of our list, and keeping our kids safe should be at the top of our list. How do we do that, especially after an unfortunate situation in Connecticut? I think what we shouldn't do is have knee-jerk reactions, and I think there's already been a few of those being thrown out there. I think the Attorney General's proposal is a bad idea. I think that's a lot of the other proposals have taken kind of, and from both sides, I'll say this, from both sides, and don't snitch on me to my leader, but I mean, some of it has just been for taking kind of political advantage of some of the situations, and just kind of going after an attack on the Second Amendment or whatsoever. Are there gun reforms that are needed? Yes, I believe so. I'm happy to work on those. But getting back to the priority of school safety, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction. Let's not dictate to you, the professionals in the schools, what you should do with your money, whether it's using an SRO, whether it's hiring an officer, whether it's arming a principal or a teacher. Let's ask you what you think we should do. And actually, that's what I just scheduled this today. I'm going to be having a community meeting with education professionals, superintendents, Dr. Santarelli, I'll invite you as well, superintendents, law enforcement, and school parents. We're going to sit down. We're going to ask you, what do you need to make your school safe? I know in my school district, and we'll be doing this next week actually. So we'll be meeting that. I'll let you guys know all about it. But I know in my school district, we do have SROs in some of our schools. Those SROs aren't funded by the state. From the legislature cut off a lot of that funding. But we did get funding from the city. We got the city of Avondale to fund some of our SROs, and those SROs are working great in those schools in the city of Avondale in my district. They provide a very valuable resource, and we think that in those schools, in those communities, those SROs are a good fit, and they keep our kids safe, and they do things in addition to just being a guy with a gun on the campus. They provide more of a connection between the community and law enforcement. So students see a law enforcement officer, they don't think he's a bad guy. They think this is somebody I can go to, this is someone I can talk to, this is somebody that I can trust. And reestablishing that relationship between law enforcement and the community is very important, particularly in districts like mine, District 29, which is a very highly minority and lower SES neighborhood. Those are districts, those are neighborhoods where there's a very strained relationship between law enforcement and the community. And they need to reconnect, and they need to strengthen that relationship. It's also areas where there's a higher amount of crime, and there's a higher risk of danger, of getting involved in some situation where there's going to be a gun pulled somewhere. So those are things that we need to get. I want to hear from you to tell us, what do you think is going to be the best solution? And we should respect the expertise and the professionalism from the actual people who are working in this field. So that's what we're hoping to do from my end.
Thank you. Thank you to each of you. Heavy, heavy topic. And again, our parents will be getting some additional information on that shortly. I have one final question that I want to close with, and it is asking how parents can productively assist our representatives in moving education up on the priority list. They want to know, what can they do to do their part in a productive way to help you with your job of hopefully trying to help move that up on the priority list. But before I have you weigh in on that question, I want to share with you what we're doing as far as doing our part to increase funding. And as you all know, we are funded per student. And one of the ways that we try to bring additional students into our district is by hosting patron tours. And we do this about twice a year. We invite our community and business leaders, government officials, the media, come in and see what an A school district looks like. Look at the ways we're being innovative in the classroom. look at how we're being innovative with the limited resources that we have, and you have these invitations on your desk, or excuse me, on your tables. And as parents, I would challenge you, if over the next couple of weeks, if you could take this invitation and extend it to someone you know in your community or in the surrounding community that does not have a student in the Peoria Unified School District, invite them to come see what a wonderful school district we are firsthand. And I would extend that same invitation to our elected officials. You have an invitation as well inside that annual review there. We invite you to come see firsthand what we're doing. Trust me, you will be amazed. It will be by far one of the best ways you spend a Friday morning. So we certainly hope you'll join us for that you'll extend the invitation to others, and parents, I challenge you to do your part in helping us bring additional dollars in. Many of you may have seen today's paper, depending on where you live, an ad in the back of the Arizona Republic, the community section, and leveraging those limited dollars that we have, we partnered with the Deer Valley Unified School District because we're on the same page. We're all in it for public education. And we partnered with them to leverage our limited dollars and put out an ad telling people what kinds of things we have in the Peoria School District that we think makes us incredible. So that's what we're doing. And I want to go to you and ask you, what else can our parents do? What can they do to productively help you in moving education up on that priority list? And we'll just make our way down. We'll start with you, Representative Boyer.
Well, first off, I think you're starting it. You're here, and you're involved, and I appreciate that. Common Core, the new state standards, that's my #1 priority, not just in education, but it's my #1 priority. And I'm limited in my time and my resources. I'm meeting with the Arizona Republic on Friday to talk about what my educational priorities are with the education reporter over there. But I would suggest, if you haven't already done this, I mean, you're here, but if you haven't met with your representative or your senator, go down there. You can register in the kiosk, and you can, you can ask to testify, or you can just, sign in on a bill if you support it, if you don't support it. It's House Bill 2047, if you want to write that down. That's the one that it's phasing out the Ames, and we're moving into the park assessment. So freshmen this year will be taking the park assessment. So if you're a sophomore, you won't. Or junior, senior, of course. So that's one practical way you can help out. And also letting parents know that, look, even recent graduates, it's going to look a lot different than even if you had a recent graduate from high school. It will look extremely different. Go over, the standards are going to be rigorous in ways that you can help out your students' teachers, because they're going to have a tough time. Spend more time with your kids, and I suspect the folks that are here, you do care quite a bit about education, and I'm sure you're already doing that. And just to encourage your friends to let them know that the new standards are coming out, and if you can support us at the legislature, as some members may not be as apt to support the new standards, just explain to them why it's important.
Thank you, Representative Boyer. Representative Gray.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I've been privileged to see some of your students. I have an appreciation for a lot of the students that are in Peoria Unified School District, because when I was a part of the Peoria Rotary Club, we had our Student of the Month that came from Peoria and Centennial. And that was really, in fact, that day of the month was the most uplifting for me, because it just inspired hope in young people. It was just very encouraging. And then I was also able to recruit a bunch of people from our Sun City Republican Club to go down to Country Meadows and do the Family Friday and read to the 3rd and 4th graders, and that was inspiring too. So I've been able to, even though I haven't made it to the patron tour yet, I've been able to have some.
Oh, we'll get you. Don't worry.
Yeah, I've had some connections with your schools and the people that are there, and you've got some real jewels. I think when it comes to, and I apologize, because the opening session with this week is kind of crazy, and one of the things I wanted to do was to grab a bunch of business cards and bring them so that if anybody wanted to contact me. But if you want to get involved, I want you to know, as legislators, we may be at the Capitol, but we're not distant. And I think so many times people, and when I go door to door and I talk with people, I get this sense that it's like, oh, okay, well, you're a legislator, and and we're just a resident. I try and break that down. In fact, I've got my mobile on all of my cards that I hand out, and now I've put it on my Capital card. The majority of people that are representing you, and I think the people up here for sure, are people that want to hear from you. We're there as your representative. I've put surveys on my website so that I can find out what people think, and that's for both parties. You know, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. In fact, I had a lady that I had talked to through email, and spent a little time with her, and she had emailed me back and said, well, you know, we're in different parties and we don't agree, but I appreciate you, you know, at least hearing what I have to say. And I emailed her back and I said, you know, if you want to get a group of your friends together, and you know, I'll come, we'll have coffee together, we'll talk. I don't have to agree with you, you don't have to agree with me for us to sit down. We need to have that dialogue. So I just want you to know we're not distant. We're there for you, we're your representatives. So, you know, email us or phone call us, tell us what your concerns are. There are a lot of times you see stuff in the paper that is just so far off, so distant from the facts, that it would give us an opportunity to explain things. So, you know, we're there as your representatives. You know, be willing to contact us. If there's something that you've got a concern, something you've got a question about, don't hesitate. I just want to let you know, sometimes our schedules get extremely busy. So, you know, sometimes it takes a little while, but we are open and we want to communicate with you, so don't hesitate to contact us.
Thank you, Representative Gray. Representative Livingston.
I think you guys and the Peoria School District helped the parents here a lot with this document that's on your tables. You know, you have 4 different districts here. You have the list of the senators and the list of the House members, and you have our telephone numbers directly to our offices at the Capitol and our emails. I think it is very important when you email us that you put your name and your address and your phone number. If somebody's not willing to put their address and phone number on an email to me, I'm not willing to return it. I think that's just fair. And you have to understand, we get I've been averaging maybe 250 emails a day, every day, 7 days a week. So what we have to do is prioritize them. And the people that give us information where they live and what city they're in and what district they're in, we're much more likely to return. Just so that's a little hint, and you get a lot out of that. The other thing that you need to realize is we're supposed to be a part-time representatives, and I think it's very clear to us that we understand what part-time means. Part-time means a half a day, and a half a day is 12 hours. And we're literally doing 12-hour days. And we're doing the best we can to represent you guys. And we're not complaining about the time either. We volunteer to run. But you have to realize there's that many inbound things coming to us. And we literally prioritize what we think are the most important things, like tonight, and we'll be here. I think Representative Gray has done really something big, and that's getting together the West Side Caucus. He didn't say Republican Caucus. He said West Side Caucus. Every leader we want to get to, R, D, I, and do that together. We want the West Side Caucus to be as strong, if not stronger, than the East Valley Caucus. And we need Republicans and Democrats to do that. We need leaders. So a couple of things we've done. We're here, pretty good turnout. We went recently to the city of Surprise and met with the city councilor and the mayor there. We went recently to Midwestern University and talked about higher education, and Ed.D 22 and 21, we were on both of those, and we had over 75% of the 6 of us there. So we're reaching out to the community and business owners. I know each of us have been to a number of different churches in the last year and met with small groups on different things, and we're happy to do those. I'm very happy to be here tonight. And we're trying to reach out. And we're really no different, guys. We get up in the morning and we put our pants on one leg at a time. We really do. You know, we may sit up here and we get these little fancy things, but we're just out there working hard, trying to represent you, doing the best we can, listening to you and coming back with ideas on how to solve problems. And we're proud to do the best we can.
Thank you. Representative Quezada.
Yeah, I would agree with what my 3 colleagues up here said. There's a lot of good points that they made. And I also want to echo the West Valley Caucus that Mr. Gray is helping to establish. I think that's a fantastic thing, and I think it's going to do a lot for the Western Valley of Maricopa. So I'm really looking forward to participating in that as well. As far as for what you guys can do, again, without echoing what they said, I mentioned this at a similar event not too long ago, but we live in a day and age now where the information that you need, that you want, is really at your fingertips. There's a thing called Twitter out there. There's a thing called Facebook. Large majority of the members are tweeting what they're voting on as they are voting on it. You can find out exactly what I'm doing every day, or what a lot of us are doing every day, just by logging on and looking for us. I mean, that information is there if you want it. A lot of it is just educating yourself about what we do, what we can do for you, and what you can do to make sure that we do that for you. The fact that you guys are here, that's the best way you can start. The fact that you guys are here, this is it really is the best way you could start. And so I, again, want to commend you for putting on this type of an event. So show up to these kinds of events. Go to your school board meetings. It's interesting, but school board meetings is usually just the board members, the superintendent, the staff, the principals from all the schools, and maybe one or two parents, and that's about it. But the decisions that are made at that level, they will affect your everyday life. They really will. And you, by going there and understanding the decisions that are made at that level, you'll understand what constraints they have and what things they have to do because of what we did at our level, at the state legislature. So you will learn a lot about the way your district is run, the way your schools are run, and the way the state is run, just by going to those meetings as well. So I would encourage you to just take the time out and go to those meetings once or twice a month. Aside from that, like my colleague said, our doors are always open. Our emails are on here, our phone numbers are on here. We do love to hear from you, especially if you're from our district. The reason why we look for that address and that phone number, we want to see if you're one of our constituents, because we love hearing from our constituents. We get tons of emails from random people that send something to all 60 legislators, and there's nothing personalized. They just send it to everybody, and they just complain about something like, I don't like whatever you're doing. But it's very rare that we get something from someone that says, hey, I live in your district. I'm in your neighborhood. I go to a school that's served by a school district in your neighborhood. You are my representative. I voted for you, or I didn't vote for you, and this is why. So if you did that, if you took the time to do that, you would get a response. You really would, because that's what we want to hear. Aside from that, I just thank you guys again for being here and for having us.
Thank you, Representative Quezada. And just to let you know, we retweet Votes for Education. So if you are sending those out, we retweet those for you. But a big round of applause to our panel. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to be here. There were unfortunately a handful of questions that I did not get through this evening, and I was wondering if you would be so kind, if I emailed those to you, if you have any specific thoughts that you might want to weigh in, we would be more than happy to repost your comments for our parents and for our community who didn't get to have their questions answered. So if that's all right with you, we'll maybe send those your way, and hopefully we can get a few more of those other questions answered that we didn't get to this evening. But again, on behalf of the school district, I want to thank you all so much for being here this evening, for giving your time. And we will be looking for those decisions as they come through from this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
While they're taking just a few moments to go ahead and clear the area up here, I know we do have just one last item on our agenda, and I know it's very much near and dear to the hearts of many of you, and that's a presentation by our K-12 administrator for academic services. That's Mr. Steve Savoy, and he has a presentation on safety. And so we're going to have him come on up, and as they're making their way through, we'll get him queued up and ready to go. Thanks for hanging with us. We know that safety is very important to you, so we want to make sure we cover this tonight. Mr. Savoy.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. Again, my name is Steve. I work with the Peoria Unified School District as a K-12 administrator, and I know it's getting late. We'll take just a few minutes to share with you an overview regarding school safety. One thing in our district, our vision is every student every day prepared to meet tomorrow. And we believe that in our hearts wholeheartedly. And it not only includes that academic achievement, but it talks about the total well-being of each child so that they're prepared to survive in our world and be phenomenal, productive citizens. Our overview this evening will cover 4 areas: assessment, planning, training, and community connectedness. One of the things, certainly this evening with our legislators here, they talked about school safety. This morning, I received an email during the day. President Obama signed 23 executive orders today regarding school safety and safety in our communities. There's an awful lot of conversation at the state level, national levels about safety in our schools. When you have an event such as Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, it's a reminder to all of us to take pause and to see what we do in our schools. One thing we want to assure all of our parents here this evening and our entire community is that safety is priority 1 in our district. I've been in the district for quite some time, and one thing I can tell you is that each superintendent that I've been employed and worked with, they talk about student safety, 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 safety in our schools. We received a number of calls from community members and emails following that event in Connecticut, and we were able to reassure our community members that as a district, that it's an important priority for us and that we're constantly vigilant in that area. The first area is assessment. Much like the classroom, teachers assess children, they teach children, they assess children, and they evaluate those results. We as a district are constantly ongoing in our efforts to assess what it is that we do to ensure safety at our schools and how can we improve. Obviously, one of the watershed moments in our country was 9/11. When that occurred, there was a lot of resources that came to us from the federal and state level, and schools were involved in that. One of the things that came as a result of that are 2 things: incident command centers, or incident command systems, and school emergency plans. And we've implemented those in schools across the country, and in particular here in Peoria Unified School District. But we are constantly assessing what we do in our schools. We train, we're routine training. But my point about assessment, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. But one of the things is that our schools are a reflection of our community. And that's what I mean about assessment, is that when there are issues within our society, schools are a direct reflection of that, and we respond to that. I can remember 15, 16, 17 years ago, gangs was something you used to hear a lot about, a lot of graffiti and tagging and gangs. And as a school and a school system, we responded to that. And we developed plans, and we worked with local police agencies, and we designed intervention strategies to combat that effort. And I believe we were pretty successful over time at working to improve that area. Another was drugs. And we worked again with local police agencies, and how do we target and work specifically to eradicate that concern in our schools. Certainly now what we're seeing is having to do with the dangers that could be presented. Once you assess, figure out what it is that you want to do, you develop a comprehensive plan. I want to assure all of our parents here that in the Peoria Unified School District, every school has an emergency preparedness plan. I carry this binder with me, but each school has a binder. There is a very large comprehensive plan that details all types of scenarios that may occur at a school. It could be things such as water leaks, where you lose all water pressure in your school, maybe a power outage, flooding. There was a time when you remember you used to hear a lot about the killer bees. We actually have plans about that. And so it's very comprehensive in the things that you would possibly interact with at a school. We designed a plan to respond to that. One of the things is we have procedures for check-in at school. A lot of you experience that as parents when you go to the school, sign in, check in, wear a visitor badge. The other thing is that we have ID badges now for all of our staff members in all of our schools. And I was sharing with our governing board, I used to work in the schools, but now I work at the district office, but I visit schools a lot. I wear my ID badge, and when a student sees me, I can see the expression on their face change. When they see my badge, they know, okay, I'm supposed to be there, I'm okay, and that's a good thing. The other thing we have also in our classrooms are emergency flip charts. And it doesn't look like much, but there's a lot of information in here, a lot of detail that teachers can use about emergency response and procedures in their classroom. The third bullet or fourth bullet down, site-based emergency preparedness plans, evacuation, relocation, lockdown. Those are some of the things that we practice on a monthly or quarterly basis, where we practice evacuating the building, and we also practice securing all of our students and staff in the building as well. We call that lockdown procedure. And so we have plans for that as well. Part of our training, I've shared a little bit that with you with our plans. All those plans that we've developed, we train regularly with those. But the other thing that we do too is we work with our local police agencies. And we do things called like tabletop exercises, where the police department will come into our school. They will sit down with the leaders of the safety committee. They'll pose a scenario, and then they'll ask you, okay, what are you going to do? And then we talk through the process. And what's interesting, we've done quite a few of these. The chief actually has led a number of these tabletop exercises. Not only is he critiquing our response, but he's also asking his sergeants and patrol officers, what are they going to do when they get to the school? And then he critiques their response as well and provides them guidance as well. Those have been extremely helpful because it allows you to role play something that may happen. And then at the end, we debrief and talk about, okay, how do we do with that? What things can we do to improve? And the other thing that's really neat about those two is we get to know each other. So the police are getting to know us, and we're getting to know the police. I think the most important piece to school safety in the Peoria Unified School District is our community connectedness. We really value relationships, and I believe in our schools that you find environments, and I think tonight is a good testament seeing all of our parents here. Many of our school administrators are here. But there are relationships that develop with the teachers and the students and the teachers and the parents, and that is critical. A strong community sense of security, of value, that we're all in this together, really makes a difference because we're all looking out for each other. And I really believe that is one of the most foundational principles in our district, is that our culture really lends itself and supports this idea of safety and security for everyone, that we're going to take care of each other. And I've really felt that in our district ever since I've been here. A couple of the things that we do is each year we hold a community forum. The last 2 years we've held that at Centennial High School. We usually have 5 or 6 topics that we discussed that evening. And the last 2 years, one of our topics was school safety. So there's a presentation that begins the event, and then we have tables just like this set up at Centennial High School. And at each table, there'll be a different topic. And a couple of the tables were safety, and we have a conversation where we talk to parents, we get their input, and then we take that back and we consider that within our plans for improvement. School site councils, we encourage our principals to talk to our parents about safety. We talk about exchange of contact information, school collaboration meetings. Just yesterday, myself, the superintendent, we met with the chief of police from the city of Peoria and the chief of police of the city of Glendale. And again, the purpose of that was build relationships, continue the communication, discuss topics that are relevant for both the police agency and us, and how can we ensure safety at our schools. And we know these folks very well, and they know us very well, and that is really critical that we have that constant communication between both agencies. Some other examples of community connectedness is that school resource officer program at some of our high schools. We use School Messenger, and we also have a safe school line that anyone can call anonymously 24/7. It is monitored. If a call comes in, it goes for public relations to a person like myself, a K-12 administrator, and then we work directly with the school to take care of whatever the call may be referring to. And my last piece is next steps, which really takes us back to the beginning, that whole piece about assessment. I can assure you that we met with the chiefs of police yesterday. That's not unusual. Today we had our principals in for a principal meeting. One of the sessions was all about school safety. We sat, we talked, we discussed about what happened, what's going on, talked about their plans, the implementation of your plans with your staff. We got feedback from our principals, concerns that they have received from their community or questions or ideas that they have. We take all of that in. One of the representatives talked about a measured approach. We want to avoid the knee-jerk reaction. We want to work smart, intelligently, but with safety as the core. And I believe a couple things happened. One, it was interesting, our voters in the Peoria District approved a bond 2012, just past November. One of the components in the bond had to do about enhanced security measures that we could implement at our school sites. So that I think will help. So that provides some funding. I think we'll also see funding from the state and federal level as well that I think will help us with enhanced security. We will continue to review our ongoing practices, and where we need to improve, we will. And we're always seeking input, and we will continue to train. When we were speaking with the police yesterday, one of the things that they shared with us was, when you're training and training and training, practice like it's the real thing. So if it ever happens, people will fall back on their training and do what's right for our children. So I just wanted to take a few minutes with that. Certainly, if you have any input, suggestions, please let us know. We received a number of emails. We collect all of that information, and we'll use that in our evaluation of our program. Thank you very much.
I want to once again thank Apache Elementary for hosting us this evening and for all the work that went into putting this together. Let's give Apache Elementary a round of applause. Thank you to all of you for hanging tight through our program, for the incredible questions that you were able to come up with for our panel. I think that it was a very rich discussion. I certainly hope you felt the same way. You have a green form that you received when you walked in today. It's a survey. If you would take just a quick moment to share your thoughts on this evening, we'd love to hear from you, get your feedback. We do read each and every comment that you leave us on there, and we make sure that we make this the best experience possible for our future dinners. With that, I will remind you of our next dinner, which is scheduled for Wednesday, April 3rd at Cheyenne Elementary. So thank you to Cheyenne in advance for hosting. And that will be our last meeting of this school year. Hard to believe, but that will be the last time that we'll be getting together with all of our parent leaders for that. Before I dismiss you, a very special thank you as well to the students who were hanging tight with us this entire dinner. So our student body presidents that are there in the back, thank you. Thank you to our Community Legislative Network members who were also here with us tonight and who wrote in some great questions as well. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you April 3rd at Cheyenne. And with that, we wish you a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you.